and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle Up Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down all of our best bets, our matchups, outrights, as well as building some lineups and going through our thoughts over on DraftKings is Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, I don't even know what to think about this race coming up this weekend. Practice and qualifying were extremely interesting. Multiple people spinning out on their own. It's going to be chaotic once they get into traffic come Sunday. And also of note, in the Xfinity race, which I happened to forget was on because I was doing yard work, 8 of the top 10 finishers started the race inside the top 10. With one of the other guys starting 11th and only one person starting past 11th. I think it was 38th, Ryan Sieg or something, finishing inside the top 10. So something to keep an eye on as we get into Sunday.
Yeah, because we're going to get some good opportunities and some good values with these guys, but it does seem like it's going to be really hard to pass.
Yeah.
Which is going to make things interesting. We'll have to, I don't know. There's going to be numbers that are really compelling. So we'll have to argue for a while and figure out who's actually worth betting and if we can get some good numbers and, or if we should just not get out in front of our skis. Our betting cards are looking pretty tidy so far. And, typically this is where we get aggressive and spray the board and find all kinds of values, but maybe we need to keep ourselves in tow, knowing full well that that's absolutely the last thing that's going to happen. So, I watched a lot of qualifying. It was interesting. There was a lot I took away from it. Some of the accidents, as you mentioned, it looks like they can really dive into turn 3, and if you dive too far, then you hit the apron, then you spin around, then you're toast. So that happened to a few guys, but it will be interesting to see what kind of values we can find. So let's jump into it. Let's talk some DraftKings, baby. Kyle Larson starting 3rd, your betting favorite. 11-8, Chase Elliott starting 4th. 11-3, and Willie B starting 33rd because of that aforementioned spin out, starting at 11K. If we just stay in that range, what's your head thinking?
Man, just because of how difficult it is going to be to pass. I know William Byron's going to be extremely popular, but I feel like this might be a race that you kind of treat it like a short track where you're going to want to pick Kyle Larson at the top of the board amongst those guys. Not necessarily to start your lineup, but for me, I'd probably prefer to start with Larson of those 3 Hendrick guys.
Yeah, it's interesting because Larson definitely has a better track history here. And Chase Elliott looked okay, but I don't know. He's been so solid, and obviously he's your points leader despite not winning a race. But those two guys are interesting. So I'm curious to see if people gravitate more towards Elliott because it's cheap, because he's a little bit cheaper and easier to get in your lineup, or Larson because of that track history, because of the betting lines, and because of kind of that stuff. William Byron's really tempting. It's gonna be really hard for me to just not click. I know he's starting 33rd. I know it's hard to pass. I think there's a non-zero chance he gets into the top 10, even though maybe I'm, I don't know.
I think there's also a non-zero chance that working his way through the field from that position, that he's going to wind up getting collected with some contact. So
yeah, no, that's fair. He might get up to like 7th, and I'll be like sitting there, be like, yeah, I did it. And then he wrecks, and then I'm like, yeah, I didn't do it. So yeah, that's gonna be a tough conversation to have, because obviously you're gonna want a couple dominators, but you're also gonna want to get some of that, movement points, some of the fastest laps, that kind of stuff. So we'll see where we fall when we actually build the lineup. We only have a handful of 10K guys. Joey Logano, number 22, starting 22nd. Ryan Blaney starting 5th at 10-3 could be an interesting pivot option if you don't want to pay up for a potential early dominator, as well as Alex Bowman, 10-1 if you want to get off the 200 guys up here and come down. In the 10K range, is this just a skip for you, or are you going to be penciling in potentially one of these two guys?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to choose one of them, I'd be choosing Ryan Blaney just with
Yeah.
how good he's been at every single track this year.
Yep.
I mean, I sound like a broken record at this point, but he's been so good everywhere.
Yep. Yep. I like him quite a bit as well. Bowman, I think, is a nice little pivot because I think Blaney is compelling. Starting fifth, has a chance to win the race. Martin Truex starting 18th as we dive into 9K. Danny Hamlin looked great. All practice, all qualifying. Starting
Let
second.
me just say too, Hamlin won this race from the second spot a few years ago. So
just put all, take out a second loan, put it all on Hamlin.
and I was gonna wait for us to talk betting to throw this little tidbit in there, but 5 of the last 10 winners at Dover started the race second.
Wow.
And then after that, so it's either been second or ninth or below. Nobody in between has won over the last 10 races.
That's really interesting. So that means the guy starting 11th, Kevin Harvick, at
who's also one of the guys that won from second.
Could be a compelling option. His numbers at this track are pretty good.
Yeah.
Somebody that makes a lot of sense. And we'll have to figure out because, how comfortable are we with passing? Because Harvick at starting 11th could move up 6 spots, maybe have a chance to win the race. But he's also not starting 30th where he can move up like 20, 25 spots. So
yeah.
Kyle Busch, 9,100. We'll even dip into the 8K as we got Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain look good again. Chase Briscoe and Christopher Bell. What names jump out to you beyond Hamlin? And as we go from kind of 9K down to Christopher Bell and 8K.
Honestly, I got to start with the JGR teammate Kyle Busch, starting there at 10th, 9,100. Again, like I said, that's kind of been the sweet spot is 9th, in between like 9th and 17th, I think it is, are like the other 5 winners at this track over the last 10. And I think Kyle Busch, who's been running pretty damn good of late, is one of the is the driver that could sneak from that 10th spot into a potential win here.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. Interested to see Reddick. I think he's been really solid. Obviously a chance to win a couple weeks ago until Chase Briscoe spun him out. So that was that. We'll dive into the 7K 7K. Daniel Suarez, who just ran 1 lap but thought he ran 2 and was really confused and ended up being good enough to get him where he needed to. Now he's starting 8th. Brad Keselowski starting 20th. Austin Dillon 24th. Kurt Busch, brother of Kyle, 16th. Cindric at starting 12th looked pretty solid. Bubba looked pretty fast, 7,100.
I love Cindric this week. I mean, we talked about it the pre-race show. Like he showed it in qualifying. He just missed making it into the to that top 10 mark. But I think just with a little bit of adjustment and just how good he's been here at the Xfinity Series, I think he's one of my favorite bets as far as like getting inside that top 10.
Yeah, if you joined us on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever the show came out, we loaded up on Cindric on our early bets. So it'll be interesting to review and kind of look at how the odds may have shifted in his favor. Stenhouse, Eric Jones, Almirola. I wanted to be excited about him, but he just did not look like he has the pace. Our guy Chris Buescher, starting on the pole, looked really fast.
Incredible lap.
Is there a world where you're potentially using him as your early dominator?
Not a chance. He didn't even come up in any of my like pre-race research. Like I glanced over him and I just went, oh yeah, nope. No shot.
That means he's winning, dominating from the jump. Allmendinger, Dinger the Ringer, Cole Custer,
I will
my
say
guy.
Allmendinger starting 19th, even more so for me than William Byron, because when he was qualifying, he got a little loose going into 3, like a lot of drivers, which affected his actual second lap as well. And I think he's a guy who probably, had that not happened, he probably gets inside that top 10 number to qualify. Okay. So I think he's a good person that's starting a little bit further back that you could get some placement points and save salary.
Yeah, it was interesting. There was a couple guys that had issues like with getting around the turns and keeping their car on the track. So if they can work those things out and get the car going in the right direction, it could be something that we see on Sunday. Ryan Priest, Justin Haley, Todd Gilliland, Michael McDowell. I'm just naming names at this point. We'll have to get down here, I'm thinking, just depending on how aggressive we want to get, but we'll see what we can do. Let's build a lineup, Brian.
Let's do it.
How do we want to start? Do we want to find a dominator? Do we want to find some high salary? Do we want to go find some values first and build in around that? What are your thoughts?
I think at Dover, you definitely have to pick a dominator, knowing that it's going to be 400 laps.
Okay.
I think each of the last 6 races, there's been a person that's led 150 or more laps or something
Okay.
of that nature, close to that. So we definitely got to find one of the guys that's going to be up there at the front pretty much all day.
Yeah, so I think the names that make sense are Hamlin, Bowman, Blaney, Elliott, and Larson. Is there any one of those 5 names that you want to just eliminate off the bat? Because
for me, it's got to be Kyle Larson, just because I don't think there's that many good value drivers this week. It'd be too hard to build a lineup while sneaking him in there, I think.
Okay, well, I'm eliminating Chase Elliott because even as good as he's been, he doesn't traditionally do that well here, and I don't expect him to perform that amazingly this week. So we will just eliminate the top 2 and go down. So that means we have Blaney, we have Bowman, or Dennis Hamlin. Do we just go with the guy who's starting second wins the race and not even overthink it?
I mean, that's kind of my thinking. I mean, we'll see in the betting cards. You'll see the direction I'm going, but
let's throw him in there. Okay, so Denny Hamlin is our starter. Do we want to pick another potential early dominator? Or do we want to try and find some value? Is there a driver starting? Do we want to go to William Byron, or do we want to not worry about William Byron? Because he's had some success here and has looked really good. I know he's starting 33rd. I know it's going to be hard to move through the field. I know he's not cheap, but he is compelling. I mean, we could go to Logano, who his car has not been good. I know you don't like him. He was really upset with his car. So,
I mean, if Byron does move up the field, even if he doesn't even crack the top 10, but he finishes 14th, those 19 placement points, along with the fact that he's probably running some fastest laps in there, are gonna mean that you're gonna probably have to roster him.
Yep. Man, it's interesting because the races where he kind of starts near the back, he doesn't traditionally. He's been a real roller coaster over on DraftKings. He's had some dominant performances.
In the fall race here in 2020, he started 23rd and wound up finishing 4th. Last year, he started 3rd, finished 4th. I mean, like you said,
so you're saying he's gonna finish 4th?
Yeah, so there's his ceiling, especially starting 33rd. It's just you're paying a lot for a week that there's not a ton of.
Let's skip over him. Let's see what else we can do, and we'll come back to him if we can make it work. So if not him, is Kevin Harvick somebody that you'd be willing to go to? Starting 11th, 9,300. I obviously has a great run of history here. The face you're making tells me no. To
me, Kevin Harvick, his ceiling is 5th in my opinion. I just don't see him competing for wins anymore.
That's fair. So where are we going? Who do we like? Do you want to go with Dinger the Ringer and see if he can find some of that magic?
I think he's a good place him in the lineup right now, and then you can kind of work around the salary savings that you're getting with him.
Do we trust Cole Custer's history, or do we think his car is absolute doo-doo and we should just ignore him?
Yeah, he looked like crap. I don't know. I'm regretting my Cole Custer top 10. I'm
regretting my outright at 2. I mean, it's 200 to 1, and I put a quarter unit on it. So at the end of the day, not really that big of a deal. But yeah. Okay. Well, so we have 2 guys. We have about 8,500 per driver. How aggressive do we want to get? Recce spinouts.
Absolutely not.
This track
if
is
it's not a
designed
super
for him to
speedway, like I
crash.
have a really hard time going with Stenhouse.
Yeah,
Like I personally absolutely love Austin Cindric. I think
I like that call a lot.
floor for him is top 10. I think he's got a good shot, finish top 5.
Okay.
Mm.
What about Alex Bowman? We talked about him as kind of a sneaky option. Obviously, he's not cheap, but we could see about squeezing him in because getting to Byron, we're saving almost $1,000 off of him. Could be an early leader.
And he's probably a good pivot play off of Byron.
Yeah, I think people
Considering
will go to Byron. I think if people want a dominator, they'll go to Blaney or Elliott. I think
Bowman's finished top 5 in 4 of the last 5 trips to Dover.
Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
All right, we're doing it. We're putting this lineup together. I smell victory lane. We're gonna cash some GPPs. I love where our heads are at. So we have 2 spots. We have 16, almost 17,000. Now we got to figure out what we're gonna do. Who's gonna be the difference maker? Who's gonna be the game changer? And we could go up. We could talk Ryan Blaney. We could talk Ross Chastain.
Honestly, personally, I like Truex Jr. I picked him on an outright earlier in the week. He seemed pretty cautious while running in both practice and qualifying. I don't think he really pushed it very much. But I mean his track record here is immaculate. So him starting 18th, I think there's a good shot he gets into the top 10. He's under 10K. People maybe kind of put off by how he didn't look that fast at practice and qualifying.
Yeah, and I think even if people get to him, I think we're doing between Alex Bowman and AJ Allmendinger, I think we're doing enough difference that even if he is sort of chalky, I think we'll get away with it. So let's put him in and see what we can do. We can always go down to Harvick if we need to save a little money. You also like Kyle Busch. He's an interesting option if we need to save a little bit of money. But that gets us, we have to be basically below 7K or at or below 7K. So Bubba Wallace is interesting, but he's starting pretty high up, and we have some pretty, we have some higher up starters. So that's probably not somebody we want to get to. We probably want to go down to this range. I don't hate going to Cole Custer, but I know it's gross. We could look at, Ty Dillon's been somebody.
I mean, of those guys, like obviously I like Chris Buescher the best, but of those drivers of the cars, it's either Almirola or Custer are probably driving the best equipment in terms of like their team. And Custer is probably a little bit under the radar, and because he looked like crap, maybe nobody is going to roster him.
Yeah, and maybe that's the right move. Almirola, I mean, his history at the track, like he's got some stuff that if you look at his kind of like finishes and stuff, it seems pretty solid, but he's basically been a kind of finishes where he starts. He doesn't really move up a lot. Obviously doesn't move down a lot, but for a guy starting 27th, I don't know, like what's his best case scenario, like 15th, 16th? I don't know if that's somebody I necessarily want to go to.
Well, I mean, you're kind of looking at the same thing with Custer. I think at this point with Custer's car, we're looking at hopefully it gets inside the top 20. And at 6,100 though, I mean, that's good savings. Whereas like a guy like Almirola, you would need him to get inside the top 15 really to kind of pay off.
Right. And I think the other thing about Custer that I kind of like is leaving $1,000 on the table is another thing that kind of helps like differentiate, right? Gives you a little bit of different because people are going to try and spend as much money as possible. I still like Cole Custer. His last 3 races, starting 21st, finished 11th, started 10th, finished 10th, started 30th, finished 10th. So if we could get a borderline top 10 finish at a Cole Custer, we'll be so good. And then obviously we're just hoping that he finishes the race, flirts with maybe can get inside that top 20. And we're loving life. So I think this makes a lot of sense.
I really like that lineup. I mean,
yeah, I mean, if you want to get a little less aggressive, like, or like a little open yourself up to a little more potential passing. You could take Bowman out. You could put in Byron. If you wanted a little more safety, you could go to Blaney. But a lot of these, like even Truex to Blaney, could make some sense. But I think we're getting enough movement points
Yep.
without going so far in the back of the field where we're flirting with a lot of disaster.
Yeah, no, I feel like the spots that we're picking guys to move up, both Allmendinger and Truex are good enough to get inside that top 10.
Yep.
And then Cindric, like for me, is a lock to top 10 this week. And then Bowman and Hamlin can win the race. With Cole Custer, all we need is hopefully he gets inside the top 20.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we know what his upside is. His upside is starting 30th, finishing 10th. So
Yeah.
best case scenario, that's how we take down a big prize. And worst case scenario, give us 25th and don't absolutely murder our lineups. So last week we had 3 of our 6 drivers end up in the pits. Brian, let's try and go for 4 of 6 this week to not end up out of the race. That's our goal.
I had a DK lineup like the last 5 weeks in a row where every single one of my drivers finished the race.
Okay, so just let me know who you're rostering tomorrow, and I'll make sure to cut them out of my lineup, and I'll make sure I'll pivot off of all of them. So, no, I think this is a great lineup. I think it has a really good chance, and I think you can do some different things to kind of set up a couple versions of this to take down a big prize. And I like that we eliminated some of the big dogs and some of the potentially chalky guys, and we'll see where we're sitting come Sunday afternoon. So let's save this lineup. Let's pivot over and let's talk some outrights as we look at where the betting board has kind of moved. Obviously, we're recording this Saturday about 4:00 on the West Coast. FanDuel has not put up their lines yet, so we will not be using them, but we have a lot of different options. As you can see, Larson is your betting favorite. Incredibly compelling. I'm seeing a number that I'm ready to add to my betting card as we cruise down. I do want to mention, let me pull up the what we have currently set. As we were really good this week. We didn't get in front of our skis. So I have Cole Custer. I got him at 200 to 1. I thought he would qualify much better. Did not. That's fine. Put a quarter unit. Christopher Bell, 25 to 1. Put a single unit on it. Cindric at 60. Top 5 at 7 plus 7.5 or 7.5 to 1. And then top 10 at 2 to 1. I also had my best bet as Brad Keselowski, top 10 at plus 125. It's fine. There's a better number out now, but that's okay. You have Truex at 12 to 1. You had Cindric at 60. You had Cindric top 10, Custer top 10. And that's it. So let's see what we can do. And let's make some horribly awesome decisions. So Alex Bowman is incredibly compelling. He was down quite a bit. He was closer to 20 to 1 when we talked before, correct?
Yeah.
So that's he's definitely a mover. Denny Hamlin, 11 to 1 going on the card based on.
Yep. Already added half a unit. It's too good a number for the guy starting second at the spot on the starting grid that has won the most of late.
Yep. I like that call quite a bit. Larson, I mean, I like Larson. I think he has a really good chance to win. Obviously, the odds dictate that, but I'm not betting him at 4 or 5 to 1 when I can bet Blaney and Hamlin or Bowman and Hamlin at the same price. So
I was just gonna say, if Larson had went out there and ran like a full half a second faster than everyone else in practice and qualifying, maybe that would warrant being such a heavy favorite. But in these new cars, there's just no indication that anybody has pulled away from the field. So those kind of numbers are a complete avoid for me right now.
The other number that is kind of interesting is 14 to 1 on Kyle Busch.
Yes.
Is he going to make your card? That's the question.
Man, I've been getting so heavy, but I mean, peppering the board has worked out.
You've been hitting some winners. We could also look at, top 3, top 5, top 10 kind of stuff. We'll flip over to DraftKings here in a bit and see what
it's interesting because I like Chastain at 14 to 1 again too. I mean, this dude is like turning into one of the best drivers in
So if
NASCAR.
we do this, like, rank your top 3 options for me in the, like, 10 to 16. We'll even go to 18. So Hamlin, Busch, Chastain, Logano, Truex, Harvick. Who's your favorite option, second favorite option, third favorite option?
Honestly, it would probably have to be Denny Hamlin as my first favorite, just
Yep.
knowing he's won here before at the same exact starting position. And then I think second for me would have to be Ross Chastain. I mean, the dude is on fire. Like you cannot deny the fact of how good he has been this year. And then, I mean, just for value wise, and because I picked him at the beginning of the week, I would have to go to Truex, who's moved down to 16-1. Because
Yeah.
I think like too much has been put into qualifying, especially starting where he is. We've seen drivers win the race from around that position. So I think he's the kind of guy who could kind of play his way through the field and make some like sneaky pit moves towards the end and find his way towards the front again.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Hamlin would also be my favorite. Kyle Busch is interesting. Obviously, it's been a wide range of outcomes from him, starting at the back, moving way up to the front, starting in the front, moving way out to the back.
He's
One,
like my problem with Kyle Busch, and I worry about in tracks like this, is that he's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. I mean,
yeah,
his personality is he gets so hot headed that it's almost as if his emotions cost him wins in races or vice
yep,
versa. Like, so it's
yeah, and
hard to
that's how good
play.
he is. Like he can, because Ross Chastain had the same issue, but he couldn't finish races. Now he's able to
Yeah.
stay a little more mellow. So I think that makes sense. Logano starting 22nd. Man, that feels like a bridge too far to get all the way up to the front and win. But I mean, they have 3 stages. They can make some moves in the pits. There's chunk, and all of a sudden they're up. So that I don't hate that either. Byron, I think we have to cross off starting where he's starting. Like I don't.
I mean, that 20-1 number is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. He's
I mean, just when you look at the other odds,
yeah.
that's the kind of like value that you would even do like a small unit play just because you're getting way better odds than anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, so we bet Christopher Bell at 25. And that's still pretty much what it is. There is a 28 out there, which is interesting. Chase Briscoe. Yeah, see, I don't know. I like Byron a lot, but I don't. I think where I would be targeting him is in the placing. So we'll flip over and look at that. Cindric, we bet him at 60. He is now down to 40 or 33, depending on where he looks. That's nice value to have.
Yeah. And then
Having
looking right above him, I mean, you kind of missed the boat if you bet him, but Suarez, knowing that he's 20-1 everywhere else, if that 35-1 number is still sitting out there, that's another play where you're betting the value, not
Yep.
necessarily, I mean, the chance he wins, but you're just getting a great number.
Yeah, I think betting numbers over betting drivers is a good strategy, and I think if you can get this number, it makes sense. He's been really fast. He looked really good. Obviously, can put it together, and I think he's kind of trending in the right direction. In terms of other outrights, I think once we get down to this range, I'm not sure that there's anybody that I really want to get to. Is there a name down here you want to gravitate towards?
I mean, I could get to that 150-1 on Almendinger for like,
Yeah. Hey, throw it on the
you know,
card.
I'm actually going to add that.
Do it. Yes.
That'll be a tenth of a unit. I mean, it'll be a super small play, but
Hey, if you can more than 100-1 your bet your dollar, that's pretty good. It's pretty good vet.
yeah, that's fantastic.
We'll start with top 10, work our way up to top 3. Obviously some interesting numbers. William Byron minus 125. Sometimes we can get better numbers on FanDuel, so we might want to shop it, but is that a number that you think he can get to? Is that worth it at minus 125 for a guy starting 33rd?
I mean, it honestly, had he not spun out and he completed practice and qualifying, he's probably qualifying inside the top 10 with the rest of the Hendrick team. And then he's probably up there with Bowman at minus 250 for the longest in the top 10. So that is a pretty good value.
Our guy Cindric, we got him at 2-1 to top 10.
Yep.
He's now plus 140. You still interested at the plus 140, or is that number too short for you to dive in again?
I mean, you're getting over even money for a guy that was like 1/10 or 1/100th off of qualifying inside the top 10. So it just goes to show you like his skill at this track, and also the fact that during practice, his Penske teammates were learning from him on how to like the line he was taking at the track, and he's the rookie of the crew. So
Yep.
I think like he's gonna top 10. So still getting even money is still a good value.
Allmendinger is 3-1 to top
Yeah,
10.
that's added already.
Going on the card. I think that number makes sense. Man. Give me Cole Custer too.
Ooh, yeah, that 4-1 is really interesting.
Putting like half a unit on both those. I think they're worth taking a stab at. Not going crazy, but definitely worth taking a stab. Let's go up to top 5. This is where we can have some fun. Bowman at even money to top 5, I think is interesting. Same with Blaney.
Oh, Denny Hamlin top 5 plus 120. I'm gonna bet that.
Yep. Truex at 2-1 to top 5 is interesting, especially with William Byron being 2-1 to top 5, and Kevin Harvick. I'm gonna throw Hamlin top 5. I'm also gonna throw Harvick top 5 because I told myself I would be measured and not go too crazy and not get ahead of my skis. And here I go adding all these people to my card. So tells you what I need to do.
Cindric top 5 at 6-1. That's going on my card.
Yep, I have it at 7.5 to 1 from Wednesday, and I'm very happy to have it. So Hamlin.
I feel a lot better about that top 10 now that I got to actually see him on track. So yeah,
yep.
I bought in even more.
6-1 is pretty solid. If I didn't have 7.5, I would definitely I think anything north of 5-1 is probably okay for him. Especially considering where like Brad Keselowski and Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe are. So Harvick is 200. I think both those make sense. Any long shots? Cole Custer at 8-1. See, Cole Custer
No
at
chance.
4-1 to top 10 is such a better bet than 8-1 to top 5.
Considering he's only top 10 at this track. He's never like 10th. He's never finished inside that spot.
Yeah.
So
Bubba 10-1 to top 5 is kind of interesting. Dinger 12-1 to top 5. Dinger.
I don't know if I could get to Dinger at the 12
See, that's
to 1
interesting.
number.
Dinger is 4 times the price to go from top 10 to top 5. And Custer is 2 times the price to go from top 10 to top 5.
That is really interesting how they would.
They're like, Dinger can top 10. He
Way
can't top
further
5.
back there.
I'll just throw a little 60-1 on Corey LaJoie and call it a day. Top 3. Blaney 2-1
into it.
Almost 3-1 to top 3 for Hambone. I just go to the outrights at that point. I think 11-1. Man, Truex 4.5 to 1. That's kind of interesting. We keep going to the same guys. 11-1 to top 3. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's see if we got any good matchups. Anything we can go head to head. We still need to figure out. So for the show on Wednesday, let's figure out what head to heads we've had so far for our show bets, and figure out what our show record is, so I can show everybody how much I'm crushing you. It may not be reflected on the betting cards, but our show head to heads have been fun. This could be our show head to head potentially. This could also, oh man, Chastain at plus 175 just to beat Kyle Larson. I know it's Kyle Larson. I know he's dominant. I know he's great, but this track eats people up. It's kind of interesting. You're getting almost 2-1 on him. Same.
Are we doing Party Marty versus Kevin Harvick?
I think that's the move. Unless let's see if we can find something better. We could do Party Marty versus Logano too, but I think I'd rather have Kevin Harvick. Yeah, man, they really want to put Martin Truex in all these matchups. That scares me a little bit. It's like they want us to fall for this stuff. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. Yeah, Hamlin over Kyle Busch. Give me that.
You're gonna bet that?
Yeah, I'm taking Hamlin. I think it's a good number. I think it's a guy that I think can win. I think it's basically even money. I
Yeah.
think it's yeah.
Yeah, and anytime you get close to even money, I think that kind of makes sense. And on that note, I am actually going to add to my card Martin Truex Jr. over Joey Logano at that same -105.
Yeah, it's a good number. That's a real good number. Okay, yeah, some of these bets have been hammered. There's always opportunities. I think that's it. So, let's throw up the bet tracker. Let's see where we're at, and let's see if we can find a best bet or two for the week. My first best bet on Wednesday was Brad Keselowski top 10. You can get a better number on that. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I felt much better about it coming in, and maybe I should be hammering it just because I feel good about him as a driver, but I don't know. He's just something about it. He just didn't look as strong as I kind of had hoped. Obviously, still have Custer, Bell, and Hamlin. Added the Hamlin at 11-1. Also have Cindric. This is all kind of a mess, but that's okay. Cindric top 5, Cindric top 10, Dinger the Ringer. This was top 10, right? And so was Cole Custer.
Yeah.
Oh god, I am struggling to type. Okay, that is that. Hamlin top 5, Harvick top 5, and Hamlin over Kyle Busch at -115. Brian has Truex. He has Cindric. He has Cindric top 10, Custer top 10. You found Cindric to finish on the lead lap at even money.
Yep.
That
on our
is
friends at our favorite offshore.
That's something I'm gonna have to load up on. And then Hamlin 11-1. So I think that's a good bet. Dinger the Ringer 125. I don't hate that. Obviously top 10 at 3-1. Hamlin to top 5. Cindric to top 5. Our show bet this week will be Truex versus Harvick. I will take Harvick. Brian will take Truex. And he also has Truex versus Logano. Brian, what is your best bet for the Drydene 400? Wait, before you do that, a little reminder. If you have not already done so, smash the like, hit the thumbs up, turn on bell notifications, and subscribe if you want to be entered to win this beautiful Christopher Bell signed mini helmet. It will go
Tell
to
your
one
friends to
winner
subscribe.
once we hit 500 subs. If we do that before the NASCAR playoffs, it will be going out to somebody. Otherwise it'll probably end up on that shelf behind me. So tell your friends, tell your family. No notifications come to you, and it does a lot to help us. So please do that. With that being said, Brian, what is your best bet for the Drydene DuraMAX 400 at Dover?
So if I could, I would go back to Cindric at top 10. I
Do
feel
it.
like
Double up.
that,
If that's your
but at
favorite
that
bet,
plus
double
140,
up.
I can't double down on a lower number. So for me, my best bet, as we record here on Saturday ahead of Sunday's race, is going to be Martin Truex Jr. over Joey Logano. I think Truex is too damn good at this track. I don't really care what happened at practice and qualifying. He's too good of a driver. I think they're going to get their stuff together. He's going to finish inside that top 10, avoid any accidents, and Logano is going to be trapped again in what could be a chaotic Drydene 400 at the Monster Mile.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Obviously, is this going to be the week Toyota's like have their renaissance. We're picking Denny Hamlin to win. You're all over Martin Truex. There's some interesting guys that look good in practice and qualifying.
Yeah.
We were all out on Toyotas last week. Now we're gonna be all in on them. So we'll have to see. I like that call quite a bit. I like
It
this.
is. It is scary picking the Toyotas, knowing like how bad they've been. But
Yep. But when they have good drivers and good numbers, we have to
yeah.
trust the numbers and roll with it.
Oh wait, real quick. Before we do that, I do want to say that I would be betting Ryan Blaney this week. I mean, he's eventually going to win the race, but the number just is far too low. It's the first time I think it's inside that 10-1 number in quite some time, and so if Blaney wins, it's not going to surprise me, but the number just is not enticing enough for me to take.
Yep. And it's okay to pass on it based on the
Yeah.
number, even if you think the guy is going to win. Obviously, bet whatever you want to bet, but you have to be smart about it. And eventually you're going to be hitting winners more consistently if you're betting at the right numbers, not just taking, whatever the books hand out. I like that. So as I mentioned, Keselowski top 10 is my best bet for Wednesday. Still like it. Don't love it. I'm gonna roll. What's Cindric's current top 10 number? Like 150?
I think it's plus 140. It's plus 140 on DK.
Man. Yeah, I like that number quite a bit, but I can also, I have 2-1. Why am I gonna roll that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you can't. It's hard to piggyback off of a number that's decreased that much.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I'm gonna go Hambone, Denny Hamlin, top 5, at plus money. I think if you can find it at anything better than even money, I think you should jump on it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Let me just say that's quite terrifying that Kyle and I are both heavy on Hamlin.
Usually so either Hamlin's gonna like win the race by a lot and it's gonna be awesome, or he's gonna be out within the first 10 laps talking about, well, the Toyota just we had it and it didn't, and we crashed, and so it'll be interesting to see. We will be back on Wednesday. Make sure you're subscribed, all the good stuff. Let us know down in the comments your best bet for the Drydene DuraMAX 400 at Dover. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. We'll talk to you guys next time.